Morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world today. I have this concept which I call resting equilibrium, and I'm not exactly sure what it means. So I'm going to define it in this video and give you some pointers as to how you can use it in your everyday life to analyze your own behaviors. Your resting equilibrium is essentially the mood which you are currently at when you pick up something that you're going to react to. So typically this is social media, obviously. When you go to watch my video, you are at a resting equilibrium, which is possibly curious, possibly bored, anxious, depressed, you got it, we name it. Could be anything in the spectrum of human emotions. And the more awareness you have of this emotion, the more you can analyze what's going to happen next. You are obviously going to mix that chemistry with my video and see how you react. Now, some people have preconditions, some people have precursors to how they react. So someone like my friend Benjamin Dunn, who I call Benjamin Dunce because he's a dunce of intellect, he will have prejudices about what I'm going to say, and he will react to that in his own special way. But if he were more self-aware, he would reflect on why he's doing what he's doing and go back to that resting equilibrium and think, wow, that resting equilibrium really sucks. Maybe I should change it. Maybe I should be at a different state of being before I enter this video, or whatever the case may be with whatever reaction is going to happen next. Now, as humans who are able to react in a free world, or mostly free world, I guess we might call it mostly free, in many ways, not in many economic or social ways, but in many ways we are free to enact our lives the way that we want to, with certain choices. Obviously, that's a sign of privilege, so humans are privileged to do that. When you're in a tight setting, when you're in a prison, or you're in a factory farm as an animal, etc., you're in a different situation altogether. And your resting equilibrium is very, very different. You may be chronically depressed, you may be chronically anxious, and that will affect how you react to certain stimuli. And the more humans try to control those animals on factory farms, the more that they become tame and kind of unable to do anything possibly outside of their domain that reflects natural behaviours, and that's really, really, really sad. So at one stage of my life, when I was suffering trauma at the hands of the Australian police, my resting equilibrium was different than it is at the moment. I couldn't get up and start to speak and make a whole video like I'm doing now. My resting equilibrium was such that I was afraid I was reactive to what was going to happen next. Whether the police were going to enter my home and break into my home, whether they were going to arrest me and do all sorts of nasty things to me. So that was my resting equilibrium at the time. And of course, my reactions to the world around me was very different because I suspected things, I believed certain things, maybe. All this stuff is very contentious, but there was a greater chance of me believing things because I was indoctrinated with all sorts of religions at school, and the Christian religion in particular, and obviously being friendless and so on. So a lot less stamina in my general personality and makeup. My get up and go was in tatters, to be frank. Now, it's true to say that if you're in an interview situation with a psychiatrist, you can say absolutely bloody anything if your mind is in a state where it's not fully receptive and open-minded to the world. I'm very lucky that now I have the ability to kind of cast my gaze over the world and see what it's like. And I'm educated to be able to do that. People like my friend Benjamin that I mentioned before, who doesn't have that ability, is stuck in a rut and will always be constantly, cogitatively dissonant, and not able to process new ideas with an open mind and with a balanced and equanimous sort of perspective. I think it's really, really interesting to look at our emotions from an objective position because they teach us a lot about ourselves. And I have done a video previously, which I'll link somewhere here, that describes what I believe is a really good paradigm or methodology for understanding how we react to the world. I think the first line is something like, the world is not as it is, but what it seems. The world is what it seems to be to us, particularly because our perspective of the world is quite limited. We don't have like the perceptual and sensory skills to perceive anything more than what's around us in the present time. We are not gods. We are not gods, and we are able to perceive things only within a limited kind of scope. And that's very interesting when it comes to analysing ourselves. So I think it's worth thinking about. So does meditation and breathwork help? I guess in many ways it has helped a lot of people, but it's not my forte, and I don't normally resort to meditation very much. I think that being active is much better for my particular predicament, being afraid of the police and so on. And it does have some significance to some people, and it does affect your resting equilibrium, of course, but sometimes it makes it worse. There are some people who are very meditative who are also very kind of reactive and acerbic towards other people. So I just thought I'd make that as a note to make you aware that there are some hyperreactive people who are also very, very placid in other ways. Another way to describe resting equilibrium is probably something like neutrality. Neutrality is the resting state for anything, and I think it gives us some degree of power, I guess, to get back to that neutral state and to be able to reconnoiter based on that position in our emotional lives. Hamlet once said, in the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare, Hamlet once said, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." And I think that this is true, not in every instance, but with animals and factory farms, it's very important to understand that their ability to cogitate and suss out their position in the world is one of the saddest things in the world, because they are just animals. We call them just animals, but they are so intelligent and bright, and that's so sad about their fates, that 400 animals are killed every second on the earth. It's just mind-blowing. So please do think about the animals. Be ecological, be mindful, and be humane to all beings. Thank you. Bye for now.